All right, so as I go back to this initial sheet, you don't have this one. You will get this one. All right, but if you take a look at what's on the screen, it says there a data-bound control is a user interface control connected to a data source. The data-bound control that we have, that we'll be working with on here, is this. It's the data grid view. What we're going to tell it to do when we eventually end up putting this and getting it all to work is it'll look like a spreadsheet right here inside of this when we run it. All right, you'll have your headings, so it'll say department number, department name, and then one, information technology, etc. All right, so we'll have all that stuff in just a little bit. Okay, it says, for example, the data-bound control can be connected to a column in a database table. That's what we'll eventually be moving towards. Again, it's the old crawl, walk, run mentality. All right, I'm not teaching you to swim by throwing you off a diving board in the deep end. We're taking this very slow. This is the simplest type of component there is, a data grid view. All right, if we don't finish this today, we'll finish it up on Monday. If we finish it today, then on Monday we're going to use another one that's called a detail view. What's that? We'll wait for that till Monday, all right, or Tuesday, depending on how far we get today. So it says one of the simplest and most powerful data-bound controls is the data grid view. Again, that's what we're using now. It can display an entire database table in a scrollable grid on an application's form. So today, that's what we're working with. Again, it displays the database in a scrollable grid like an Excel spreadsheet. So we did step one. We copied the Acme test to Acme test 2, so we still had the original. Then we opened 2. We renamed the original form Form Startup or something like that. We added the 3 buttons to the form. We set the size of the form accordingly, and when I said center it, we set our Windows start position or our start position to center screen. I set the color. You may or may not have. It's not that big a thing. All right. So we made one copy of the form. We did form departments. Eventually, you're going to want to take that form departments and you're going to want to copy that to form city, state, zip, and to form employees. Does that make sense to everyone? And the reason, again, that you want to do that is because from right here, when you click any of those 3 buttons, you want the corresponding form to come up. All right, so we did that. Step 2, we went in and we added the data grid view control from the data tab. As it says, we'll use this control later in the project. Right now, the data grid view does absolutely nothing. It's not hooked up to a database yet. We're going to do that in just a minute. All right? So right now, if I go back and I run the program, we've got it. It's a little bit functional and that we can click here. But this doesn't do anything. It's even worse than a label or it's worse than a text box because not only does it not currently do anything, you can't write in it. So basically it's useless. So we're going to add some stuff right now to make it useful. Okay? Now, I do want you to understand that when we add this stuff, first of all, especially if you're having problems, make sure you add it to this form. Don't add it to the original form, add it to this form. This form should be called Form Departments. The other one might still be called Form 1, or you might have changed the name of it to Form Startup or Form Acme Startup or whatever. It's not that really that important. But don't name them the same thing. A couple of you have already been bit with that. You don't want to do that. It's very easy to confuse the software. All right, so I'm getting back here now. All right, now we're starting new. What I want you to do, we're going to be working with that database right there. You don't have to highlight it or anything, but we're going to be working with that database. All right, remember that database is the one that we created yesterday. All right, so that database has got our 6 records for the departments in there. It's got our 6 or whatever records there were for the city-state zip, and it's got our 12 records for our employees. That should make sense to everyone. In addition, we've got this log file that basically is keeping track every time we're changing the database. All right, so what we want to do is now we want to click Project on our menu right here, the word Project. All right, and when you look here, we haven't done virtually just probably nothing with this particular option the whole semester. All right, but what we want to do when you look at the stuff that's in there, notice if we wanted, we could add a new form from here too. We could add a class from here. I don't care about that stuff. What we want to add is the 5th one down. We want to add a new data source. So highlight that, click, and it's going to bring up a wizard. So we're going to walk through this right now. I'm going to try to be and give you as much of this stuff as I know. With some of it, you go, well, you didn't talk much about it, because I've never used it. The only thing I've ever used from here is the default, which is database. All right? I've never used service. I've never used object. I've never used SharePoint. It's not fair to talk about any of those when I don't know what the hell they do. And I don't care what the hell they do. All right? So that's what we want right there. So we're starting the configuration wizard. Again, with what we're doing, we always want to make sure it says database. So we'll just click next. All right. And then it says, what type of database model do you want to use? I think everybody can pick the right one here, because there's only the one. All right. And notice what it says. The database model determines the type of data objects your application code uses. A data set file will be added to your project. That's what we want. So we're again going to click next. All right. Now, yours may show acme.mdf like mine does. Yours may not. If it doesn't, you didn't do anything wrong. Okay? But if yours doesn't show it, then what you have to do is you have to click New Connection. All right? And you have to go find it. So let's take a look at what's in here. Even if yours did show, click New Connection anyway, just so you see this. I'm purposely doing this slow. If I'm doing it so slow that it's boring you, I'm sorry. But I'd rather do that and people who are struggling, have them be able to understand it than just fly right through it. All right? Now, a couple things that are here. Microsoft SQL Server Database File SQL Client. Please look up on the screen. If I click Change, those are the other ones that you can use. We're not going to be jacking with any of those, but just so you see those. Notice that one of them is Access at the top. I already talked to you about Access. I'm not going to say anything more about it. The next one says ODBC Data Source. Anybody know what ODB stands for? ODBC. It's Open Database Connection. If instead of using a database, I wanted to use a spreadsheet or a comma-separated variable file or something that was non-database, I would choose ODBC data source. All right? The next one is SQL Server. You would choose that one. We're using SQL Server database file, but you would choose that one, as it says, to connect to, typically to Azure. So we might choose that one if we were working on a project where we were actually hooked up right now to a regular server. All right? This is the one we'll want. Now, notice what's not on here. You notice a type of database that we've been using that's not on here? How about MySQL? If you use MySQL, I don't remember if you've got to choose other or if you got to do it through an ODBC connection. Okay? Microsoft, it's surprising because they actually have put a hook in here to Oracle. That's a competitor. All right? Bill Gates is one of the most, one of the richest guys in the world. You may or may not have ever heard this name, but Larry Ellison, I believe, is still running Oracle. He's up there with Gates as far as one of the richest men in the world. Because Oracle owns Oracle, they own MySQL, they own Java. So the guy who runs that make some big bucks. And again, the other that says right there, there's nothing. I don't even know what that is. So this is the one we'd want. All right. The .NET data provider, don't have many choices there. Okay. If you want to make sure that it's always set to that, you can check there. Just leave it the way it is. It's fine. So I'm going to cancel because I'm just trying to explain all of this stuff to you. All right. So again, if yours did not say data, if originally on this connection thing where mine says acme.mdf, if yours did not say that, then you must click new connection, and from right here, you have to click browse. And you have to go look for it, for lack of better words. So I know it's under my desktop, and it's under my C# folder, and it's under my incomplete, and it's under my Acme Test 2, and it's in here, and there it is. See that? So I could have done it that way. All right? So if you have to do that, then go do that. All right? Otherwise, it's fine the way it is. Now, this is important here. All right? And notice that this is grayed out. Notice if I check here, how it's not grayed anymore. What we will do 100% of the time, 100% of the time, this semester and next semester, is we'll use Windows authentication. What that means is if you're logged in to your machine, you now have access to the database. Let's say that Amin is creating something and it's going to be used by people in his family. He's making his own little store to show them everything he's learned during his internship, for example. All right? So he wants them to be able to use it, but they have to log in order to be able to use it. Then you would set it to SQL Server authentication. So it's another layer of protection if you want to do that. Again, we don't care. We're just going to leave it the way it is. There are some advanced settings that are in here. Why am I taking the time to mention this? There is a reason, believe it or not. The only one in here that may become important as far as the advanced settings is this right here, your data source. You may have to know what that data source is. There's other ways to get to it, and we'll look at those in just a minute. But I just want to mention, to my knowledge, I don't think there's probably much of anything else in here you'll ever have to worry about. All right? So I'm going to cancel out of that, and I'm going to, if I want to test right now and make sure that my connection to my Acme database works, or right now it seems to work, I can click the button that says Test Connection, and it says no database was specified. All right? Okay, then I'll go back and do this again. So I'll come in here in the same way that I just did it. And I'll go to Desktop, C#, Incomplete, Acme Test 2, there. Now it's filled in. Now I can click Test Connection, and it's successful. Does all that make sense? All right. So, like I said, hopefully we're all at the same place right now. Okay? Well, again, please look up on the screen. If you've got this and yours says acme.mdf, if you click here, that's what's called your entire connection string. This right now doesn't look important. This is probably the most important part of your project. If this is screwed up, you're not going to be able to talk to the database. If you can't talk to the database, and if what you're trying to write is a database-driven website, you're screwed. I don't know any other way to put it than that. All right? So let's look at what's in here. This data source is what I just showed you. When I showed you those advanced settings, that's what this is. The data directory, for lack of better words, the attached DB file name, is it saying, okay, in that data source, this is what you want to use. And that was the one we said we wanted to use. All right. Integrated security equal true. For lack of better words, Microsoft puts a minimum amount of security that they put on here. We want that set. If it was false, there would be none. All right. And the last thing, connect timeout equal 30. In English, what that means is if you can't connect within 30 minutes, if you can't connect within 30 seconds, just cancel. Does all that make sense?
I don't have connect timeout.
You don't have a connect timeout? I don't know why you wouldn't.
I don't know, me neither.
Okay, I wouldn't worry about it. Okay. Like I said, ideally, this is all going to work anyway. I don't think you can put it in there, but I think you can come in here and find your connection string in here and put it in. All right. Okay, so if you've got all this, we've got our connection, I'm going to click next again. All right. So again, we're walking through the wizard right now. Another important thing, if yours is not checked where it says yes, save the connection string as, if right now, all right, if it's not checked for the connection string, make sure that it is. All right, so it says storing connection strings in your application file eases maintenance and deployment. To save this, enter a name and click next. Well, we're connecting to what? We're connecting to the Acme database, right? So to call it Acme connection string, at least as far as I can tell, that probably is okay. So again, we're going to click next again. I'm taking for granted that if you're walking through this and something's not working, you're going to ask me or tell me. Now, as the old saying goes, yours may not look exactly like mine, or it may look exactly like mine. It may take a second for it to load, too. As the saying goes, this is where the rubber meets the road, because now what we're going to do is we're going to link this up. So if you look here, notice we have 4 different things that we can hook up to. All right. We've got tables, which is the one that we're going to choose. We're going to click that arrow in just a minute, but I just want to go over all these with you. So we've got tables, which will allow us to choose one of our 3 tables. That's what we want. Remember, we talked a very little bit about views when we went over that in MySQL, and I said a view is a saved query. So if we had a query we wanted to use here that we saved as a view, we could check that. Stored procedures, okay. In English, what that means is you can actually write your own code for this. Okay, so you can write your own code, or you can call built-in functions, and that's what those last 2 things in there are. So what we want to do is we want to click this arrow by tables, and it shows us our 3 tables. All right. Since right now, the one, what hopefully this makes sense, we want to choose departments. But if you've done that, don't click finish yet. You already did? Well then, you already did. All right. This basically says this is our data set. And if you remember from the handout that you have on that last page, there's data set. So what's data set? That's going to be a copy of the table. See that? So really here it doesn't make sense to call this Acme data set. We're going to call our data set departments data set. And if you create one for the other 2 tables, one of those data sets will be called city state zip data set, and the other one will be called employees data set. Does that make sense? All right, we're just doing a lot of mapping here, for lack of better words. So I'm going to change the name of this from Acme data set to departments data set. All right. And once we've done that, I can now click finish. And right now, if we run the program, not a darn thing's going to happen when we get to this. We still have more work to do. We were doing, for lack of better words, all the preliminary work you had to do to start getting this stuff set up. All right. So what we've done so far is we added the acme.mdf database as our data source to the application. We created a data set component that we connected to the departments table, and we call that the departments data set. All right. Now we're going to go through the step where after we do the next step, this is going to be filled up. Okay, so we're now actually going to make it where it's worthwhile, where it does something, whatever it is you want to say. Okay? We're going to do something, it's a little bit new here. So we're going to click View. I'd like you to click View right now on your menu. Now, we've clicked View before, and we've gone down to Tab Order, and we've changed the tab order. We're not going to do that now. Instead, what we're going to do is under View here, because it's important that you do this. Even if you've been having problems so far, do this anyway so you see what you have to do, please. So under here, we want to actually choose about 2/3 of the way down where it says Other Windows. We want to choose that. So we want to do a View, Other Windows. And under the Other Windows, you'll notice right near the top, second from the top, it says Data Sources. That's the one we want to choose. So it's View, Other Windows, Data Sources. Again, if I'm going too fast, that's why I tape these things. All right? So I'm going to choose Data Sources. And when I do, watch over here in the corner how this changes by my toolbox. Because it brought up another window. That's what it just did. Again, View, Other Windows, Data Sources. That's exactly what we wanted to have happen. The window shows the name of our data set. All right? If you click on the word Departments, if you do click on that, and that's what I'd like you to do, click on Departments right here. And you notice once you do that how you get a down arrow right there? You only get the down arrow if you click on it, okay? So if you click on that, you should get the down arrow. And then what I want us to do is to click that down arrow, and I want us to choose Data Grid View. All right. Once you've done that, then see the little icon right here? Click on the icon and drag it right there. Drag it right onto your Data Grid View. Don't worry about the fact that it looks small. It'll be fixed. If you said, I tried doing it, it didn't work, you have to let me know. If it looks like this, even if it's real little, don't worry about it. It can be resized. All right? So I'm not worried about it. It'll be resized once we go and run the program. All right.
That's not working. It didn't create that whenever I hit it. Get a good view.
And you followed all the steps?
Yeah, it stays on departments.
In what? When you did this, did you click on Departments, and then did you click here with the down arrow and set it to Data View, or Data Grid View, and then you clicked on the icon here and dragged it?
At first, your icon didn't change. Now it changed.
Okay.
It was no icon.
Do you notice when you look on your screen now? See this stuff? Everybody see this? You should have this stuff too on the bottom. These are what are referred to as invisible controls. And they're invisible because they don't go on the form. They go in a special area under the form, and this area is called the component tray. I didn't make up that name. That's literally what it's referred to as. Now, I'm not going to do this, but if I'd highlight my Data Grid View right now and I hit delete, all those controls would go away. Does that make sense? Because they're all connected to the Data Grid View. All right, so let's take a look at what is basically in those. The first one that you see there, it says Departments Data Set. All right, as you'd guess, it's the data set component. It's what gets the copy of the table from that table adapter, which is right here, all right, and it keeps it in memory. Again, we're working with a copy. They try to set it up, they meaning Microsoft, where you're not going to screw up the underlying database. Now, once we run this, etc., and then you can screw up the database, all right? But right now, with what we're doing, you can't. So that's what the department's data set is. Then we've got the department's binding source. That's going to give us a navigation bar when we run the program. You're going to see it in a minute. Okay? All right. Next, we've got the department's table adapter. That's again, the table adapter, it gets the data directly from the database. Okay? And then finally, you've got something that says Table Adapter Manager. Many applications, like this one, work with multiple tables. So the Table Adapter Manager allows you to manage multiple tables at one time. All right, hopefully at least that made a little bit of sense. If you haven't done so lately, or even if you have, click your triple disk icon to save it and try to run it. This will come up, click Departments, and lo and behold, there's our data. Now, if you followed every instruction I gave you, and you go, well, I did it, and I didn't get any frickin' data, I don't know what happened. All right? But those are the set of correct steps. As far as I can tell, most everything that I put on this handout is correct. So what I'm going to do in just a couple minutes is two things. All right, first, anybody who wants it, again, you can have my copy. That's fine. So if something didn't work and you want to do that. Now, if you look and you say, well, this is all cool, but this is way too small, etc. Notice if I want, I can drag over here and make these a lot bigger. So if I want to, I can have them take up the whole space. I purposely had us make a big data grid view. Okay, is there somebody here? Here's a hint. Okay, we have 3 tables, right? Does anybody know why I had you make that data grid view so wide? The last table. Employees has got 10 fields in it. There's something to be said about uniformity and going from table to table and not having the size of your data grid view go like real wide, then real narrow, then wide again, then narrow, and back and forth. So I'm using the same size for all of the forms that we have in here. All right? To me, it looks more professional. It's got a more professional feel to it. You may or may not agree with that. All right? Now, if you look up on the screen here, okay? If I decide I want to go and put in a new record, I just clicked at the bottom, right? I shouldn't have to put a number in there. That should be put in there for me. And Jeff's department. All right? Didn't think I'd have to put a number in there. I still don't think I have to, but we'll see. Okay? So if you want to put in a new record, that's how you do it. If I don't want that record, I can highlight it, and I can hit the X that's up here. I believe that's the one. And, well, no, that closed it. So let me try that again. But there is a way that you can add things. There is a way that you can remove things. And there's a way that you can modify things. All right? So, to change the value in a cell, so if I decided, for example, I didn't, but let's pretend for a second that I spelled information technology wrong. Okay, let's just say I put an extra Y on the end for some reason. So now I can sit there and I can click over here and I can remove that and boom. Okay, that's how you make modifications. Make sense? All right. So, once you select over here, if I click on any of these, that selects the row. So if I want to select the row in question. Okay? All right, so that's first thing. I believe that I'm going to try to put in another one that's got, I'll even put in a 7. See, it's not even taking that. So I'm going to put in Jeff's department. And now I decide I don't want Jeff's department anymore. So I'm going to click on the side here, and I'm going to hit my delete key, and it's gone. You know, the DEL that you have on your keyboard? All right. Now, be real careful about that, because remember, if you remove one of these that we've been using, even if you manually put it back in again, all right, it's going to have a different number now. Okay? All right, I showed you how to add a new row. Now, here's the key thing. The changes only affect the copy that we're using. We haven't learned yet about how to write them back. Don't worry about that for right now. Now, let's say I want them to be saved. Okay, so I want Jeff's department to be put in here. All right, so it's in there, but notice if I stop my run, like I did before, so I stop the run, and I start the run up again, and I come back, it's gone. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to try it one more time. What I'm about to tell you, I might be wrong on. So now I'm going to take it here, and I'm going to click my double disk icon, and I'm going to stop it. I think it's still going to be gone. All right. So I think we're going to have to write code to put it there, and it's gone. So the good news is you could come in here and you could add, modify, etc., and you wouldn't hurt the original. All right. Let's see. So what, and I haven't written this up yet, but for part of your first assignment in here, what you're going to have to do is do the equivalent of this, but for the other two buttons. Does that all make sense? All right. The other thing I want to tell you, and if you don't look at this, you may or may not have realized it, but if I go back here, I'm going to go back to my form here. I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to choose View Code. And you'll notice code has been added, not by me, but by the system. It says this line of code loads data into the table. You can move it, remove it as needed. This is going back and saying, hey, the department's table adapter, which we said that's what gets the data directly. We're telling it basically to fill our data set with everything that's in the department's table. And again, I'm not saying that makes sense, right? It may not make hardly any sense. I'm going over this slowly because it's not easy. I'm going over this slowly because we don't have a book. All right? And I'm not even finding great internet sources on this stuff, to be honest with you. A lot of the internet sources that are on here are not good. Some of them are pretty good, but it's real tough when I grab a piece from here and a piece from there. All right? So that's what I wanted to get through today. All right? If you want to go back and continue working on your worksheets, that's fine. Okay? What I will do is I will show you by Monday. Again, this will be part of your assignment, but what I'll do on the copy that I'm working with now is on Monday, I'll have these working. So I'll be able to go between all three tables. Does that make sense? All right. Now, what I plan on doing on Monday is we're going to go over, it's going to look maybe a little more like you think it would. We're going to use something that's called the details view when we're only looking at this a record at a time. What I'd like us to build toward by the end of the semester is, and it's good, I can write on here. Imagine that this thing that we're working with right here, this thing, imagine that it was smaller than it is, or we could be up here. What I want is for us, for example, in here, is we're going to have a down arrow. And it'll say something in here like departments. Departments. And you click the down arrow. And one of the things that'll be in there is information technology. So you choose that one. And that'll be filled up with just the people who work within that department. Does that make sense? That's what we're going to be building toward. That is a database driven application. All right. How far are we going to get? I don't know. Okay. So I'm going to run off copies again. I think it's correct. If you look at it and you find something you're like, I don't think that's the way we did it, or I think that's an error or whatever, let me know and I'll just update it. Hopefully having the handouts helps you. So if you fall behind or if you want to try it yourself or whatever, It's my own way of trying to help you step through what it is you're supposed to do. If you do want to staple them together, the staplers are up here. I didn't want to presume that's what you did or didn't want to do. I'd recommend using the small stapler, not the industrial strength one.